All right, everyone. Welcome to Deep Dives with Dogs. Well, today we're going to talk about the space race. Well, today, when I'm recording this, is the 20th of July, so it's when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin step on the moon. Neil Armstrong delivers his famous one small step for man, one small step for a man. That a man didn't get picked up in the audio, but one giant leap for mankind. Those are his famous words, of course. But that's the end of the space race. But that's not obviously everything that led up to that. The space race is really, it's a, really like to call it a space race. It's really just a race between the United States and the Soviet Union, which is funny because there were other countries with space programs, but they didn't really push the limits. For instance, the United Kingdom didn't necessarily push the limits on a space race, even though they really had a lot of early steps that they could have done before everybody else, but they didn't do them. So, doesn't matter. But the space race really kicks off with Sputnik being launched into Earth's orbit, the first object to ever be launched in Earth's orbit. It really gave a fright to people. You have the Soviets have this satellite above, and they're thinking, oh, it's going to look down on us and all that. Now, could Sputnik really do that? No, not really. Sputnik was very, very, very basic. But it couldn't really do a lot of the things that they thought it might be able to do. But it was a big fear. A lot of people had this fear at the time. And it's understandable as to why. So then the United States kind of kicks up like, okay, we got to get into space, and we got to do all these things too. We got to beat the Soviets. Well, that didn't really happen for quite a while, obviously. The Soviets will have the first man in space, Yuri Gagarin, who will be the first man in space. Pretty big deal, of course, having... They tested a few things before that, animals, things like that. The United States actually has some firsts in that. First animals in space, that kind of stuff. But the Soviets will have the first man, and that kind of matters a little bit more. But they'll get the first man in space, and they'll continue along with this. However, obviously, like I said, the space race will get to the point of we will go to the moon. You have John F. Kennedy's famous "We will go to the moon" speech. We will go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. And look at that, they do. However, the Soviets, they had a pretty fresh lead. One of the reasons you could really say that why the Soviets didn't really succeed in the end, per se, why they didn't win the space race, is the cosmonaut program. While it was successful in a lot of ways, it was bleeding the Soviets' money. And this really comes down to, a lot of the space race comes down to who could survive the money bleed longer. Because for the United States and for the Soviets, it is a money bleed. It is horrible amounts of money are put into this space race program on both sides. And it's really what kind of kills both programs, especially in the United States when, you have failures eventually. And it's like the money ain't worth it no more. Taxpayers don't want to spend the money. So, hey, we'll cut the funding. That cutting of funding, though, and not having a real adversary in the space race is kind of what has stifled our stellar dreams, We had dreams of going far into space, doing all these things, but that doesn't really happen. And part of that is because we don't have a real competitor in the space, traveling areas like we did in the past. China's kind of getting there, which is, in some ways a good thing, because, hey, maybe it can push the United States to go further again, but they're not really getting there very quick. China's space program is not, as you would say, the most advanced. But, hey, you know what? If they push the United States to at least go a little further, maybe we can finally get further and further into space like we always wanted. Back when Sputnik was launched, or man was first put on the moon, we could finally get those ideas of going that extra distance. But who can say? But that is going to do it for this video. If you guys like the video, leave a like. If you have any ways you can improve on these videos, leave a comment down below. I just appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.